Hello, friends. If you're anything like me, and I'm assuming most people on my channel have some kind of a resonance with what I share here. But if you're anything like me, you have probably done a ton of work on yourself for many, many years. I know not everybody because there's new people coming in and the information is as relevant. So just hang in there with me. But for those of us who have done a lot of work on ourselves, we know that in the beginning it was dense. It felt like breaking through cement walls, thick cement walls. And oh, it was so hard and it was so intense and labor intense. And then as we have moved along, it seems to be getting easier. I'm not saying that there are not hard times because we have all had some of those hard knocks in our lives, even though we are doing a lot of work. But every I know in myself that every time there's this either this big thing happening now, which can be very intense and challenging, I know I'm up against something that I need to let go of. So because I have a lot of experience now for many years to do the work, I kind of know how to dance with it, how to be present with it. And that makes it a lot easier. Not necessarily, a smooth ride, but I know how to ride with it, how to ride with the energies, and also how to just not touch it. One of my favorite words or sentences, do not touch it. So that's for those of us who have done a lot of work. We kind of know the territory and we we're not perfect, right? Know how to deal with things and how to be present with what comes up in ourselves, even though we may not be 100% experienced in letting it go. And that I think is where we are moving towards in the world. Right. So then there is many of you maybe also on this channel who that it is new for. I have talked to a number of people and I appreciate people reaching out to me um, where things just come out of the blue, like huge energetic shifts, memories or old energies, deeply held emotions. Something suddenly starts showing up. And it's like, what is this? It can be scary and freaky when it just shows up like that. And then it is not so easy to navigate it, of course. And that's a place that I would say, reach out and get some help. But what I'm seeing in the world, because I want to tie this into what's going on in the world, there is a huge pressure on. It's almost like life is pressuring us to remember who we are. Because if we have been not doing anything and we've been totally identified with the world, we have not gone within, we have probably resisted looking at ourselves when things happen in the world, in our lives that we didn't like. It was easier to turn it out and blame others than turning it back and look in our own mirror and see what is going on here. So since there has been a lot of resistance to that, and we all have resistance to doing the deep inner work. It's not fun, definitely not in the beginning. It's hard and it's painful and it's scary. I totally get it. But now the pressure is getting stronger and stronger. It's almost like that that identity that we have been believing that we are, it's almost like it's being squeezed up to the surface so we can see it. It's like, oh my God, look at me, I'm out there, let's say you're out there trying to change the world with anger and blame and righteousness, At a certain point, you have to see that, like, what am I doing here? Who is this? Who is this person who's just out there, raging and whatever it is that we do? There's probably a lot of different things I could mention, but if you are a part of that is something like, you can be curious about it and say, what is that? Why am I doing that? And that's when we can start turning the mirror back on ourselves and take a look and see, oh, I see what I'm doing. I'm blaming others. And I have had these experiences in my life. They've all been very similar. And I keep blaming it on the people. I wonder if there is a common denominator in here. Huh? And so that is a lot of the work that we need to do, because when we keep it out there, we are literally putting our energy into what we are creating. And the creation is not very beautiful out there now. So we need to start turning within, clear out the gunk that we keep pushing out there, and then start living from the purity that we are. So the pressure. So the pressure, it's a good thing. It might be intense, but it's a really good thing. To me, it's like the loving universe has been like nudging us and inviting us, but there's always been this underlying that we didn't really want to deal with. And it's not consciously necessarily. It's not like, oh, we did the wrong thing. I'm not talking about that, but I'm talking about, we might have come to a place, as we've been clearing out our inner barrel, where we can't really go any further. We can't do it ourselves. And that, yet we kind of feel where we hit the glass ceiling, or we're living in limbo and we're not sure what to do. So the pressure, as uncomfortable as it may be and may feel like, that is now kind of pressuring down to bring that stuff up to the surface, so we can also meet that, not engage in it very much, just allowing it to rise up. Let it go. Surrender. Let that energy, that wave of light, that wave of higher frequency, since it's bringing it up, it's not just leaving it here. So, okay, now you deal with the rest, right? That would be a mean thing. No, it's bringing it up, and it knows exactly what to do with it. It just brings it up and lets it surface. So it releases. So unless we get in there and we see it and we go like, oh my God, I got to do something about this, and but so then we take over, we take it back into our old identity that is separate, feels separate from the whole. But so the powerful part of this is to not touch it. And it is a practice. You can't learn that overnight, because every cell in your body is used to touching it. But at some point in your expansion, at some point you'll see like, oh, don't touch it. Let it be. Don't react. Don't engage. Let it be. And then that wave that's brought it up to the surface knows exactly how to let it rise all the way out. It doesn't always happen overnight. I definitely still have parts that just seem like so dense that they're just there, some things in my body. But I've come to a point where it's fine. I know it's going to go at some point. I know it because it's unavoidable. When this energy comes in, it will complete itself, so that its own nature starts expressing itself. I don't know what that's going to look like. Sometimes we need to have experiences in our life, just bangs us in the head for us to go like, oh. So it's very much about letting go now and surrender. But it's also very much still about allowing it to come up and let ourselves fully experience it, feel it. It's not like the bypass and avoiding, because then we're still in the separate sense of self. who's bypassing and avoiding, right? It's still that. But when you're in the flow, there's nothing to bypass or nothing to avoid. It's just all there moving through you, and you don't need to step out to do something with it or to avoid it. So if you feel that there is a lot of pressure happening in the world, you're spot on. There is, and because there has to. There has to be. There is no way we can move into this higher dimension as long as we're identified with the lower dimension, right? So it's like the energy is rising, it's cracking the shell. The shell has to go. The shell cannot expand. It's too dense. And that's our separate sense of self. It's pretty dense. So we need to keep just allowing the energy, and it knows what to do. So please do not despair if it's been intense for you and it might continue to be intense. I would say just do your very best in a very gentle, loving way to do your best, to do your best. So you just have to do your best to do your best in just allowing the energy to complete what it is doing. And it will complete itself, but it will be easier the more we can just open up and let it happen. You know, when we go in to help or whatever it is, it's like we contract around it, and we will experience the impact of that by struggling and suffering. So just do your best to do your best to just open up and let it happen. I can tell you it is completely impersonal, and it may feel completely personal, but it is not. So by stepping out, you take your personal out of it and let the impersonal be there. And without you making it personal, you're not feeding it anymore. So now the impersonal will just eventually just evaporate. But be patient with yourself. Be kind and loving, and do reach out if it's too much. You know, that's everybody. We all need each other right now, hugely, because now the new energies are going to be more unified. It's going to be more built on oneness, cooperation, love. And that's why we will eventually start connecting more and helping and supporting each other through this huge shift that's happening. All right. I hope you're having a little bit of fun with that, because it could also be fun.